Hey, Mark.
Marin Bozic, we're separated by a river and a pandemic, but other than that, we're close together.
And we are working together.
We're
And
working together.
it's
Yeah,
been such a pleasure to work with you, Mark, on this tool. Uh, you know, People talk about 2020 as a problematic year, but I think that 2021 is going to be a complex one for dairy markets as well, wouldn't you say?
I couldn't agree more, Marin. I think that, our butter powder is in a fairly good place because it's sitting there competitive right now in world markets. So, I think that class four is a lot easier to project than class three. Class three to me is one of those things where, you got some alarm bells going. So
Yeah,
I think that it's time to think about risk management for people.
that's right. And with the 2018 Farm Bill, the Title One provides for a pretty effective risk management option for family farms up to 200, 250 cows, dairy margin coverage. So I thought this summer, maybe it's time to revamp the tool that we built a few years ago, and to offer people maybe a fresh way to look at things and help them make some decisions for next year.
Yeah, and this is good timing because enrollment will start on October 12th this year, and it's scheduled to run through December 11. So, we've got a few months time period that people will be making decisions. So it's a good time to be thinking about this now.
That's right. So a couple of things here is that we really wanted to emphasize how effective this program would have been over the previous 5 years and 10 and 15 years had it been in effect the way it is right now. The concern has always been that once the changes were introduced in 2019, that folks that did not get what they wanted from margin protection program will think that this is the same old, and will just not participate. So what we built is a new feature, historic analysis, that in a very simple way shows how much this tool really helps producers that can cover most of their milk through tier one coverage. And what we have here is an annual net benefit. So that's the payments received minus the premium paid to participate in the program. And it's currently showing from 2010 through 2020 year to date for 2020. And what you see here, Mark, is that out of 128 months over this selected period, 91 months would result in payments. And then for an average premium of 15 cents per hundredweight, this is not even assuming a discount if you take a multi-year commitment for 950, the average payment over the last 10, now 11 years will be $1.39 per hundredweight of eligible milk, which ends up being a net indemnity of $1.24. That's quite substantial, wouldn't you say?
It is. But, I think if you just scroll up a little bit where you've got the select coverage, you can show people that this changes, if you change your selection. So if your choice isn't 950, let's just say you went to, let's say 650. Yeah.
That's right.
650 was considered the sweet spot back in the days of MPP program.
It's quite a sour spot now when you look at this chart.
Well, it may have been sweet in 2012 and 2013, but it's nowhere near as sweet as say 950.
That's right. So as the coverage level selected increases, the net benefit grows, and the highest net benefit historically over this selected period was achieved at $9.50. So that seems to me that if a person were to looking for the most effective coverage to supplement the income earned on the markets for the first tier, for the first 5 million pounds of production history, 950 is certainly a choice to contemplate seriously. If people decide to go with something else, they better have a strong reasons for choosing something else and not 550, because this does seem like a natural choice given the program design.
Right. And, just a couple things to point out up there in that select coverage. This is at 95% coverage. You can choose, of course, to go all the way down to 25% and 5% increments.
Yeah,
or
actually to
5%.
5%. Yeah.
Excuse me, I was thinking MPP.
Yep.
But you know, that just depends on how much of the milk is going to be covered. The maximum amount somebody with 5 million pounds of historic production can cover at 95% is 4,750,000. Now, if you had a bigger farm, let's just say 10 million,
Let's
for
put 10
example.
million here.
Okay, you've done that. Now you'll notice over on the right-hand side that tier 2 becomes available. And tier 2 was grayed out before. You couldn't choose anything at the 950 level. So what you'll want to do, I think, under these circumstances is play around a little bit. If you go down and let's just say you choose $6 or $6.50.
Yeah, so for the tier 2?
For anything, yeah. If you do that in tier 2, it's, well, no, you don't have to choose that because you're up at 950. I was going to say if you chose 650 in tier 1, then you must choose 650 in tier 2.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this selection forces you to do that. If you're at 850 to 950 in your selection, there is nothing available in tier 2, so you can choose any level that you want to. And you'll notice, I think, if you play with it a little bit, that you could go 0, no coverage, catastrophic coverage only, and note over there what the cumulative net indemnity is. And if you go on up to, let's say, the 450 coverage,
It
you'll
actually
see
goes
that
up, right?
that grows up a little bit because in 2012, you get a little bit of payment there. And if you go on up to the next level, $5, that's fairly inexpensive as well. It's, you know, you're talking about
half a cent per
half
hundred,
a
right?
cent.
Yeah.
That still contributes. If you
Yeah,
go on up to the next level, then I think you'll begin to see that, well, your net indemnity may have gone down a little bit.
So we do have a sweet spot after all, you know, for tier 2 this time.
Well, it depends on, you know, the size of operation farm. But my point is here that I think 950 is where people should be looking regardless of size. If you're
for the
big,
first tier.
for the first tier, for tier 1, you can't get to 950 in tier 2.
That's right.
But if you've got milk in tier 2, play around with it a little bit, make your own decisions about the level of coverage. But even for a very large farm, this is just good basic coverage on that first tier 1 level to be up there at a, you know, a fairly high choice.
And then if we go to coverage analysis, what we wanted to show here is how to relate to the income over feed cost margin. You know, Mark, you and I often talk to producers here in the upper Midwest, and they typically think in terms of class 3, right? That's their natural benchmark. Even those that have very high components, you will often hear them talk about class 3 and then their basis relative to class 3. So we thought, well, maybe if we can help people understand what is the milk price trigger that would trigger payments depending on the coverage level they choose for tier 1 here. So I'm going to bring this down to 5 million. And Mark, why don't you take us through the coverage analysis and the milk price trigger?
Okay, I'd be happy to. First of all, this is defaulting to the 2020 year. At 2021, you can see the light colored bars are just showing you we don't have any hard data there. These are being estimated from futures market values.
The feed cost.
And this is futures market feed cost values.
Yeah.
So if we have a feed cost value and we have the margin, which is the income over feed costs, then we can impute, you know, what we think the milk price is that you're protecting or covering. And that can be plus or minus a basis. In this case, if there's no basis figured, just 0 on here, January has a $9.14 feed cost plus $9.50 coverage level. That implies something like an $18.64 milk price. Any milk price lower than that would trigger an indemnity payment.
That's right. And if people go with a lower coverage level, for example, instead of $9.50, they go down to $6.50. Well, that's $3 lower. Now we are no longer talking about triggers at $18 to $19 per hundredweight of U.S. soy milk price. Now we are down to $15 to $16. In fact, those that want to only go with catastrophic coverage down to 4, That's pretty low coverage, wouldn't you say, Mark?
It-
It's
oh,
$13 that's a
it's,
yeah,
this is truly catastrophic.
truly
Yeah, no, I mean,
catastrophic. Yeah.
it's
If you
well named.
if this
But
pays out, you have bigger problems.
yeah. Let's take that back up to 950. And then I'm going to ask in the local basis if you would put in something like a minus $1.30 or something like that.
And that
And of
was
course,
typically the difference, right, between class 3 and all milk. All milk, historically at least, would be about $1.20 to $1.50 above class 3, right?
it's in the ballpark, obviously. But, you know, that's just a relationship, you know, for class 3 to the US all milk price. Important to remember that this DMC program is using the all milk price.
That's
So
right.
when we're calculating a trigger, if basis is 0, it's figuring the all milk price. But if you want to roughly estimate class 3, then you can take $1.30 off. You look at this and say, well, I'm covering mid 17s.
That's
Is
right.
that a price I can live with?
Yeah.
You know, if so, fine. If I want to try to think about a lower premium, maybe let's go 850, you know, I only want to spend 10 cents or so. Okay, now you're realizing that I'm more like in the mid $16 range that I'm covering.
That's right.
So that's not quite as realistic for a lot of people to cash flow at that, but nevertheless, you can get an idea about when it would provide payments for you.
There's
So
also the another update to this tool is not just what is there, but also what isn't there. And what we thought that we might experiment with is not including the predictions for next year based on futures, but for a very simple reason. Predictions never can see black swan by definition. Black swan is something that surprises you, just comes around the corner, punches you right in the kisser, and then you have a bad year. And then if you were planning your risk management for what you hope will happen, you don't have a risk management when you need it, when bad things are happening. So this is a chart here for 2020, and you can see that in April and May, as COVID-19 hit us hard and the food service sector shut down, the margins that were predicted just at the end of December of last year, margins were predicted actually above average, over $10 per hundred. They were down to very low levels of $6, even below $6 per hundredweight. And then, of course, by summer, they recovered due to food box program and strong exports. But for a few months there, it was pretty scary. Those were scary times. So futures markets are not used in this tool in the current version. We use them to forecast feed costs, so we can estimate the milk price trigger. That doesn't mean that they're bad. You know, futures markets serve a very important role for price discovery, for risk management. DMC can now be complemented with either LGN dairy or dairy revenue protection. Futures prices are used heavily there. But for dairies that rely primarily on DMC, I think that it's much more indicative to look at how much would their net farm income be increased or historically if this program was with us for the last decade. So Mark, in Northeast, I have many friends there, producers I care about. My heart would always pain to see such low participation, you know, from New York to New England. So I pulled together the data from Farm Credit East. They publish every year the dairy farm summary, and I pulled what they call the net household income. So I wanted to see for a farm that could cover all of their production with DMC. So that's a rough approximation, you know. But if one could cover all of their milk with DMC, how much would net farm income or net household income be improved over years through participation in DMC and choosing 950? If the program had been with us since 2007, it wasn't. It was only here since 2019. And what you find, Mark, is that the net household income would actually double over this period, from about $1.65 per hundred to $3.30 per hundredweight over these 14 years that we are showing here. In fact, if you look at some of the recent years in 2018, almost the entire net farm income or net household income would be attributed to the DMC payments. In other years, it would be a really nice complement or add on to what they can earn from markets. Now, of course, as farm size increases to 500, 600 and more cows, DMC will cover only a fraction of that milk, and there the use of other risk management tools, either CME or forwards through COPS or crop insurance product, that's where it becomes quite relevant. But for dairies that have up to 200, 250 cows, this is really critical help in times that they will need it most.
I agree. I think that we have a good program. I hope that it's understandable for folks. And as we get to this decision period, the election period from October 12th through December 11th, that people use a tool, think a little bit about the levels of coverage that you would like and would need. Clearly, last year, the current year that we're living in, 2020, is a year when you just have to say risk exists. We saw risk and a great deal of it this year, unexpected price movements, and they continue. And that's why we have risk management.
That's right. And ad hoc payments like CFAP and food box are truly programs that are going to be deployed only when there is systemic hurt that covers all of the ag sectors. But if we get to the new year with better support for COVID-19 and maybe vaccines and some other sectors recover, and we have dairy specific problems, betting on ad hoc help to get you through the year may not be the best medicine to look for or to hope for.
Very good. We will see you at the FSA office then.